So today I actually had a normal case video planned to cover. I was planning on waking up, getting ready, sitting down, and covering a disappearance case from the 1960s that has been highly requested for me to cover for quite a few years now. When I was standing over my stove though at 6:30 in the morning, there was something in the back of my head telling me to finally make this video. A video that I've been wanting to make for about 4 years now. The reason that I haven't done this video yet is because I don't like stirring the pot. I don't like sitting down in front of a camera and creating controversy. I don't like upsetting anyone. The more that I thought about it, the more that I realized that the only people whose feelings would possibly be hurt by this video and what I'm saying in this video are people who have been hurting other people's feelings. Those other people's feelings that I'm talking about are people who do not need their feelings hurt, and I'm talking about the family and friends of victims. So just recently, I was watching a video. It was a book review video. I watch a lot of those, and somebody was talking about a book. It was a true crime book, and they made a comment about how everybody online who covers true crime cases needs to go to hell. And I sat there and I was quite offended because I really like this creator, but I try to understand where people are coming from. I had to genuinely ask the question, what would make a person feel like somebody who sits down and covers a true crime case deserves to be set on fire for eternity? Chances are the only content they have seen online regarding true crime cases is the people who are exploiting those cases. You know, the ones I'm talking about, the ones who are sitting there with the most over-the-top expressions in their thumbnails while having something in the background that doesn't really even have to do with the case, all while covering a case about somebody who was butchered, and then at the end of it making thousands and thousands of dollars and donating not a cent of it to help anyone. The thing that so many people wonder because of people like I just mentioned is, can you cover true crime in an ethical manner? Is it ethical to cover true crime? I will say, as someone who has been doing this for quite a few years now, the answer is yes and no, and it all depends on how you're covering it. If you don't know me, you've never seen my face, you don't know what I do here on my channel, I started my channel in 2016 and I started covering true crime cases in 2017. Primarily, I focus on cold cases. In the 8 years that I've been doing this, I've talked to other researchers, journalists, podcasters. I've talked to, in the professional aspect of it, police officers, retired detectives, people who do forensic reconstruction photos, authors who have written very popular, well-known true crime books. I've talked to private investigators, people who were the first ones on the case the day that it happened. For some of my videos, I've been able to work alongside one of the leading companies solving cases through the method of genetic genealogy. On top of it all, I have had the privilege of working alongside dozens and dozens of family and friends of the victims whose cases I'm covering on my channel. Now, everything I just mentioned, it's not to gloat. The reason that I'm mentioning this is because that is what advocacy is. Me and my subscribers, which I love my community here on YouTube, we have helped raise thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars for these cases. When it comes to the ethics of covering true crime cases, I think it can boil down to, is it advocacy or is it exploitation? If your personal algorithm is more catered towards the advocacy side of true crime, you may have never witnessed the horribly disgusting, exploiting side of it all. I want to say that I'm not talking about entertainment. It is completely fine to sit down and be entertaining. The more entertaining you are, the better storyteller you are, the more likely somebody is going to stay on your video, watch the video, and maybe that person might ultimately end up helping the case that they're learning about. But that entertainment sometimes, for some people, leads into complete disrespect. I'm talking about the ones that are wildly entertaining. They have a huge personality, and I'm sure that they're absolutely fabulous to have a night out with, but they sit down in their videos covering a gruesome case and they're cracking jokes every other sentence. Yeah, these people are probably making a huge chunk of money. What they're doing is insanely lucrative, but they're not realizing, or maybe they do realize and they just don't care, that they are genuinely hurting people in the process of what they're doing. Not only hurting people, but if your main goal is to be entertaining with these videos and to get people to laugh, I can guarantee that you're not sitting down and making sure that your research is spot on. So ultimately, you're probably spreading a lot of misinformation. You might be sitting there and saying, well, Gabby, can you give me an example of what you're talking about? Because all of this is quite vague. The example that I'm going to give is something that happened a few years ago and it genuinely made me tear up at my computer because I could not imagine going through this myself. I will say that what I'm getting ready to tell you saddened and enraged me enough to where I knew I was going to sit down and make a video like this eventually, but I just didn't know when. So a few years ago, I got an email on my requests email, and it was from somebody asking me to cover a case. The case was for their cousin who was tragically and brutally murdered quite a few decades ago. The reason that they reached out to me is because they really wanted a creator who was going to cover the case in a respectful manner. And along with me and quite a few other people, they were really looking for somebody to cover it in a different way than it had been covered in the past. I don't even think that this was something that she and her family wanted a lot of people talking about. It was a solved case. It was something that happened. There was nothing else that could be done. And her family was still grieving through what happened decades later. But now that there was so much attention on the case, she wanted somebody else to cover it. She told me in her email that two very large true crime creators on the platform of YouTube, both with over 1 million subscribers, had covered her cousin's case. Her cousin's case was not an individual case, it was a part of a larger case that had to do with a serial killer, but in both of the videos, they did mention her cousin specifically. In their videos, when they talked about her cousin, they said something that did not happen. And I don't want to give too much away because I don't want anyone to go after these creators and leave them hate. I don't want anyone to know what case I'm talking about, but I will say that the information that they got incorrect would devastate me for a very long time if someone said that about anyone I loved. Chances are these creators went to google.com, found a bunch of online sources, and it was these sources, these original people covering the case, that got the information incorrect, and then these creators went off of that. It doesn't matter what you're covering online. It could be the smallest thing. You could be talking about a new toy that got released or a new eyeshadow palette. Like, people get things wrong, especially with true crime cases. There are so many times where I will be covering a case and then I'll go through with FOIA, which is the Freedom of Information Act, and I'll discover through police records that I made a mistake, but I try to fix that mistake. It is how you handle those mistakes that show where your morals lie. This woman's cousin in this email told me that she and her family have been tirelessly reaching out to these YouTubers in every way imaginable. They've been commenting, they've been emailing, they've been trying them on Instagram, every way you could think of through social media to reach out to them and be like, please, please fix this mistake because it really is hurting our family. Still to this day, those videos are online, they're fully published, and nothing has been fixed. A lot of you might be sitting there and saying, well, these creators, they have a large audience, maybe they just didn't see the comments. And that is probably what's going on, but I do know that there are some creators that will be reached out to by family and they refuse to make any sort of statement, to even make a pinned comment, to say anything about it. Because they already did their video, they've made their money, they're continuing to make an AdSense check off of that video. They don't care. I don't know about these creators, but me personally, I have posted videos about cases, and eventually I was reached out to by a detective on a case that I covered, and they asked me if I received any comments that were suspicious or any emails that really stuck out to me, anything that was worth noting, anybody who had a tip that just maybe didn't go to authorities yet regarding that lead. The fact that there are people making these videos that are getting 100% of their information from Wikipedia, then releasing the video, getting a ton of comments, maybe something that could help solve the case, and then never checking any of their comments or emails or anything, not keeping up with the case, just releasing the video, getting their money, and just moving on is insane to me. You might also be wondering, how do you know that somebody doesn't care? You're not them. You have no idea how they feel about the cases that they are covering. Well, there are people out there whose entire goal is to make a huge profit off of what's popular on social media at certain times. For instance, there are people out there who study the algorithm of different social media platforms, one of those being, of course, YouTube. They will make faceless YouTube channels, meaning there's nobody sitting in front of a camera. It'll just be a voiceover with a bunch of B-roll footage, and they'll make these channels almost every year, a new channel having to do with a certain niche on YouTube that's really blowing up at that time. There was a video that I watched just recently, and this guy said that he's been doing this for about 10 years, and one of the subjects that he would make these faceless channels for was true crime. He would release these videos, make his profit, and if the channel started to tank and get less views, he would move on to something else. So if you're wondering why there's a lot of channels out there that are completely faceless, not all of them, because there are some incredible people that do not sit in front of a camera and they really do care about advocacy, but there are some people where you can tell they're not interacting with people, they're not giving you any new information, anything different than what's put on the few popular articles about the case, and after a few years, they're completely silent. They don't upload anything new. And it's because their videos are not doing well and they just ditch the channel. Which, it's not a bad thing to make money off of covering true crime cases. If you're trying to help people, you're wanting to spread the word about these cases, and you're putting in hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of work and effort and late nights into what you're doing, it's not a bad thing to make a living off of that. But if you're somebody who's racking in thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars off of people's tragedies, and you're sitting there on Instagram posting your merch more than you are missing persons posters, I think that that's something that you need to dive into when it comes to your morals. Which, if you are totally cool with that and it doesn't affect you at all that you are genuinely hurting the family members of homicide victims, that's totally cool. I mean, you're the one who has to sleep at night, and plus, we do need more research when it comes to sociopaths. Now, I don't want to sit here and act like I'm a saint and everything I do is perfect and the way that I advocate is the way that you should too. But at the end of the day, I know that in 8 years I have learned a lot, and I've navigated through the times where I did make some mistakes, and I tried to genuinely be better because of making those mistakes. And I know at 29 years old, because I started back when I was 22, 21? Oh, wow, it's been a long time. That I know where my morals lie. It is really sad because there have been a lot of people on many different platforms that have covered true crime cases that I feel like are just incredible advocates, and they really, really wanted to help. But because their videos were maybe not as entertaining as the other ones, their channels completely failed. They ended up moving on and doing something else, and were not able to do the thing that they were extremely passionate about because a lot of people were not gravitating towards their videos, because overall people are gravitating towards the ones that are more sensationalized. Yes, at the end of the day, YouTube is a business, and a lot of people can argue that a lot of creators are just doing what they have to do to keep their business afloat. But you can still have a successful business and not stomp all over grieving families. Something that I haven't shared on my channel, something that I don't think I've ever posted anywhere, is that people in my everyday life, and also representatives from marketing companies, have genuinely tried really hard to get me to cover other cases, more popular cases. And it's just something that I don't find fitting for me. It's not what I do. And it's totally okay if there is a creator out there who is covering these more well-known cases, but it also has to do with, again, how they're covering them. I think the best thing to ask yourself is, if this person that I'm talking about was my family member, how would I react to somebody telling the story in this way? I understand how it is to sit there and to have to deal with media attention on something that you wish could be kept so private. But these cases do need more attention. But the attention brought to them shouldn't be somebody sitting there covering the case, trying to be the next king or queen of true crime. That is pretty much all that I want to say in today's video, and I don't know how this video is going to be digested by my subscribers and maybe people who have never seen me or my channel before, and that does make me very nervous, but I feel like I did speak from the heart. As many of my subscribers already know, my channel, it's not doing that good. It hasn't done well in the algorithm for probably over 5 years now, since the end of 2018. YouTube does not like when creators take breaks. They don't like a hiatus. And I had to take one because of some very serious stuff that happened. And when I came back, my channel suffered greatly. Still, over 5 years later, I'm still doing what I do because it's the only thing I want to do. Yes, I have hobbies, I have passions, I have goals that I want to accomplish, but overall, this is the only thing that makes me want to sit down in front of a camera and talk about something that I'm extremely passionate about. I want to thank you though for spending a little bit of time with me and hearing what I have to say, because I do not do videos like this. I cannot remember the last time I sat down on my channel without a script and just talked. There have been a lot of times in the past few years that people have done things, not just in general, but even directly to me, targeting me. And I was so upset by them or infuriated, and I wanted to sit down and just have a stream of consciousness. But I at the end of the day, I didn't want to do that because I didn't want that sort of attention. But I feel like now it's not really standing up for me. It's standing up for people that don't really have the platform to stand up for themselves, which I also want to throw out there, that creating a platform and getting a large amount of subscribers, that being a goal is not a bad thing, because that's why families reach out. They don't have the platforms to get information out there about these cases, and sometimes the police are just not caring at all about their family member's case. And so they're wanting somebody with a larger platform to get the correct information out there. So there's nothing wrong with somebody having a goal of more views or subscribers. But again, if those views and subscribers are feeding your ego and your personal bank account and not increasing the amount of attention on a case, personally, I feel like there's something wrong there. If you've made it this far in the video though, I want to again thank you. I hope that you have a great rest of your day, and I hope to see you in my next video, which was supposed to be the case that I was covering today, but I will be filming that tomorrow instead. So I'll see you in the next one, hopefully.